All right, and we're live. Welcome everyone to our second to last debate of the day. It's been a long day of debates, but we're almost there. So thank you so much for tuning in. Before we begin, let's take a look at the itinerary. Okay, so right now we're at the intro section of the debate. So today we have here with us Jingwei, Chai Ting, Shiten, as well as Ashley for our candidates for the editors of MUSA. Then after this, we will have the opening statement by our candidates, followed by Q&A from our office bearers. After that, we'll be having a Q&A session with the students. So if you have any questions for the candidates in regards to their policies or manifestos, please feel free to drop it into the comments. All right, so before we end, we'll wrap it up with a closing statement from the candidates. Without further ado, let's pass it to the candidates. The floor is yours.
Good evening to my fellow teammates, Chai Ting, Jingwei, and Shi, the current manga office bearers, and our audience. Firstly, we would like to thank everyone for making it to our debate. My name is Ashley Lim, and I'll be running for the writer's role in Manga's editorial team for the year 2022. I'm currently part of the writer subcommittee team under Christy Wong, and as someone who has been in this position for the past 6 months, I've been able to witness the ins and outs of the writing department, as well as what it takes to be its creative leader. Furthermore, I have been approached by Monash University to write up an article for its trending page, which has been published quite recently on their website. And finally, in high school, I was also elected to be the chief editor and head writer for the foundation of its current newsletter. All of these experiences have not only allowed me to grow creatively as a writer, but also obtain the leadership skills necessary in order to carry out the duties that come together with this position. Moving on to the first aspect of our manifesto, if I were to be elected as Monga's head writer, I believe in maintaining Monga's stance on transparency and creative freedom, especially when it comes to topics that break boundaries within our community. I believe that the power of words is incredibly important when it comes to holding those in power accountable, as well as creating a safe space where Monashians are able to unleash their creativity in all forms. Now I'll pass the stage to Jingwei.
Thank you, Ashley. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jingwei. I'm a second-year student from the School of Medicine and Health Sciences, and I'm running for the role as Monga's admin next year. So although I'm not a subcom in Monga this year, I have my own personal experience in curating social media content, as I'm currently running 5 business accounts on Instagram, aside from my own personal account. So I'm quite familiar with utilizing Instagram's features, and I understand the importance of online engagement. I've also gained sufficient experience from several freelance jobs, which involve tasks such as content writing, simple design work, photo editing, as well as video editing. So aside from these personal commitments and side jobs, I'm also a subcom in the activities department this year, and I'm part of the marketing team that is responsible for creating promotional materials for events such as Monash Got Talent. And back in college, I was an active member of the student union, and I was part of the editorial board back in high school. So I'm very comfortable working with people, and I believe I am a good team player. All in all, I believe all of these experiences have made me a good fit for the role as admin. And if I were to be elected as one of the editors next year, I will work towards the goal of increasing Monga's online engagement, as I believe Monga's interaction with its audience could still be worked upon. And now I will pass the time to Chi.
Thank you, Jinwei. Hello, everyone. I'm Chi, and I'm running as the head of the media department. Having a lot of interest in photography, creating video content, and also working under the media subcom this year gave me an insight on what Monga expects from me as the head of the department. Moreover, being a part of my high school's photography club, editorial team, and working in School of IT also taught me how to organize events and work with people in a team. Hence, I believe that all these experiences make me a good fit for this role. Moreover, if we were to be elected, we plan on increasing collaboration internally and externally. Internally, we plan on to increase more projects and collaboration within the department. We also plan to collab with clubs outside of MUSA at most once a month in the form of written articles and event coverage. In the beginning of our tenure, due to uncertainty of the pandemic, depending on the situation, we will then decide whether we want to increase or maintain the number of collaborations. I'd like to hand over to Chai Ting now.
Thank you, Shi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chai Ting. I'm one of the editor candidates, and I'll be running for the head of design position. I believe that my experience as a graphic design subcommittee will allow me to have a glimpse of the ins and outs of how manga runs. Therefore, I'll be able to immensely contribute to the graphic design department of manga. I was also largely involved in the ideation and execution of designs, as well as communicating with the client itself during my internship at a social media company. I believe that my experience in Adobe apps and internship experience will allow me to. Thank you. In terms of, I'll move on to the last aspect of my intro. If we were elected, we will make sure that we'll bring new life into manga post-pandemic, as we believe it is important to take into the account of the possibility of going back to campus. And we will make sure that things are run smoothly if the circumstances were to change. This is all for our introduction, and we would like to welcome questions from the current office bearers. Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates, for your opening statement. So we'll now proceed with the Q&A from office bearers. So today we have here all of the editors, current editors. We have Christy, Jared, Angeline, and Shannon. So the floor is yours to direct the questions to the candidates. You may direct specific questions as well as general questions. All right, over to you.
All right, thank you, Sabrina, and thank you to 2022 with your opening statement. So first things first, we would like to direct some questions to the general team. So my first question is, you guys mentioned in your manifesto that you empathize with the student body and strive to be a beacon of inspiration for your peers because you experience most of your degree through Zoom, which is true. But manga on campus would have been totally different with more event coverage, of course. So how would Manga 2022 emphasize specifically with the students who have never been to campus? That's the question, the first one. Anyone can answer, yeah.
All right, so just a reminder that candidates do have 1 minute to discuss. So once you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to answer this question if that's okay. So to answer your question, we will begin by resuming traditional initiatives like Monch and Humans of Monash. And besides that, we will also include content that has the back to school theme. We might include content such as tips to be less socially awkward after the pandemic, or things to do when COVID is over, because we want to include something that's fun and hopeful and offering the students something to look forward to during this time of pandemic. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll pass it on to Jared now.
Okay, hi. Okay, I'm gonna ask a question for all of you guys. It's okay, any of you can answer. Okay, so for the second point of your manifesto, it's stated that you guys would want to focus on student interaction through Instagram features, which includes increasing the audio-visual content of the Instagram page. So in the case where campus reopens and activities will resume, so how do you guys plan on allocating manpower to sustain the operations of the Instagram page contents and also subsequently managing the content for the magazine? And how do you plan on managing the subcoms if, let's say, there are too many projects at the same time because you're rolling out 2 places at once?
Regarding, thank you, Jared, for the question. Regarding the subcom thingy, what we plan on to do is like, especially like the media department, you know how if we resume back to offline classes, we have to take care of the equipment and stuff. So what we plan on to do is like, we plan on to explain, like we'll have a certain rules and regulations for the subcom. So like for the media department, we'll have a systematic way for the subcoms to borrow the equipment. Like before they borrow, like they have to take permission from either me or the rest of the editors. And we will also ensure that we thoroughly check the equipment to see whether there's no damage. And also, like subcoms will not be allowed to bring back the cameras. Instead, like all the photos will be uploaded on their drive. So in case they wish to edit themselves. Yeah, and we will like prioritize the magazine first. So if in case like the subcoms are busy, we plan on to like not take more outside events and like focus more on the internal events.
I'd like to follow up on that. As for how we will manage a subcommittee, first of all, we will obviously do portfolio checks and interviews in order to screen the candidates for our subcommittee, in order to ensure that we have subcommittees that not only take their responsibility seriously, but are also able to manage their time well. So for each project that we have, we will ensure that we as the editors will pre-plan the whole procedure before delegating tasks to each subcom, and will also take into account each and everyone's time schedule to make sure that there won't be any problems with deadlines. And we also will not practice hierarchical communication, as we believe in openness and allowing our subcommittees to feel comfortable in approaching us when they face problems with deadlines. Thank you.
Okay. That was an okay answer. So I'll pass it over to Shannon right now.
Okay, so this is also another team's question. So for the second point of your manifesto again, your team will be introducing specifically Spotify playlists and Pinterest boards to enhance the interaction with manga. So I just want to ask, how does your team actually plan to connect playlists and Pinterest boards with your initiatives and project, and what initiatives would they be?
Right, so while the candidates discuss, just a reminder to our audience, especially those that just joined in, you may drop questions into the comment section and we'll be getting to it during the Q&A session. All right. Okay, so candidates, when you're ready, feel free to take over.
Okay, so I would like to answer that question if that's okay. So we as the candidates of editors next year, we realized that the follower growth of manga this year has been rather stagnant. So first of all, we will start by connecting with Monastians by sharing content that is relatable to the student community and shedding light on common issues faced by students, such as social anxiety, cyberbullying, and even toxic relationships. And also we will focus on audience interaction through Instagram's features, such as polls and asking for recommendations, because we believe that this will not only help us to have a better idea of our audience's preferences, but also show that we are unbiased and we value the students' opinions. Okay, so moving on to answer your question about the Spotify playlist. So to build a stronger online presence, we will release a Spotify playlist that suits our thematic month. So our subcoms will take turns to be in charge of curating the playlist, and we will also allow Monastians to be involved by asking them for song recommendations on Instagram. We hope this initiative will allow Monastians to feel more included and allow more people to be aware of manga's thematic month, in hopes of inviting more submissions of artworks from the student body. Yeah, thank you.
So can I get a clarification on the Pinterest board then? So like, will all the Monastians be able to curate? And if so, how will you guys regulate? Because if everyone is going to take control in terms of like creating and adding the songs into it, it will be a ton of songs. So how will you guys manage that?
You were referring to the playlist and also the Pinterest boards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will actually have a filter. Like we will ask them for recommendations, and we will actually I will like forward all the suggestions and all the recommendations to my team, and for their to ask for their collective input, and then we will only generate the content on Monga. Yeah.
Okay. That's it from me.
All right, then I'll ask the next question. Related to your third manifesto, it is stated that increasing cross-departmental collaboration is part of your manifesto. So how would your team bridge the communication gap, considering that each department has very distinct work from each other? And how will you ensure that each department's contribution is well accounted for?
Thank you, Angie, for the question. So internally, like within the department, for instance, if there is a project that requires a media to like edit a video, so like the graphic design department, they can help with the aesthetics of the video or can help like include video elements. And like if you were to resume back to like offline, we can continue with projects like Monge and Humans of Monash and like, you know, create more like campus oriented like contents where like both the departments can communicate together and like work on it.
How about the second question? I don't think it was quite answered. In terms of ensuring that every contribution is actually, I would say, monitored, and also there's a sense of collaboration, like very collaborative instead of like very an individual approach as in terms of each departments.
I think we can say we create.
All right, then if that's the answer, then yeah, I think we can move on to the questions by the audience first.
As there's still time for your session, I think you can proceed with your questions first. Yeah.
All right. So perhaps I will ask for an elaboration on the answer.
Okay, I think I can answer Angie's question. First of all, like we do currently, we do of course credit our writers and the graphic designers when we post stuff on Monga. So we will continue to implement that, and of course also ensure that we announce the collaboration, the interdepartmental collaborations that we make, and ensure that all Monashians know what is taking place within Monga.
All right, then should we go for the individual role questions first?
All right, sure.
Yeah,
I'll take
sure.
over from here. Okay. So as a head writer, I will be questioning Ashley, who will be running as head writer. So my first question is, you mentioned maintaining Monga's stance on transparency, which means you must be aware that the sole reason why Monga has the autonomy to write unbiased and neutral journalism when it comes to delivering content related to MUSA is because we have no voting rights. So as writers, our words hold power. You did mention this as well. So how can you promise that your resolution to stay neutral stays the same while in the office, where some of the office bearers may be your friends?
As I mentioned earlier in the manifesto, is that I take pride that Monga is a very autonomous body within MUSA, and I will strongly advocate to retain Monga's autonomy within MUSA and MSc meetings in order to maintain unbiased opinions within our department and to generate content that is interesting as well as unbiased for our students. And in the case where MSc will we will choose not to accept any offer of voting rights given to us by MUSA because we are a neutral body that caters for the students. Thank you.
All right. Actually, you just answered my second question, which was if anyone comes up to you and offers you voting rights in the MSc, so you get to contribute to decision making and all that, would you? But you have to exchange your neutrality. Would you? How would you and your team respond? But I assume that was your answer, right?
Yes, if any offer is given, whether it's by our friends or by the or any of the other candidates within MUSA, we will choose to reject the offer for voting rights.
Right. May I know the reason why?
If we were given voting rights, obviously we would have sway to any motions that will be given during the MSc. Could you give me a second? My apologies. As I said before, if we were given voting rights during MSc, we would obviously be biased towards voting or seconding for certain motions within MUSA. Therefore, that will impede our autonomy.
All right. Okay. So that's great. For my third question, as the head writer, you have the responsibility of cultivating the culture as well as the overall atmosphere of your writers department, which is important because how you interact with the writers will affect their performance, like writer's block or burnout. So my first question is what kind of leadership style would you adopt? And the second question would be what kind of team culture would you cultivate between the writers subcoms?
I mentioned earlier that we don't believe in a hierarchical form of communication. Instead, I believe more in openness and allowing subcoms to feel comfortable, as well as creating a safe space within the writers department in order for them to execute their ideas. Because creativity works best in an environment that is safe as well as productive. And also, for when it comes to subcommittees, I'll try to recruit people who are more open-minded when it comes to topics like LGBTQ, toxic masculinity, toxic relationships, etc. Thank you.
All right. That is all from me for now. So I'll pass it to Shannon.
All right. Let me just step in real quick before we move
Right.
on to the next question. Thank you. So we are experiencing some technical difficulties for the chat in terms of questions. So we will be utilizing Slido instead. So the link and QR code will be posted on the Instagram page, but I'll also share my screen to temporarily show our current audience. So to our audience, this will be the Slido link that we'll be using for the questions for the editors. So please do drop in your questions here and we'll be touching on them shortly. All right, thank you for your understanding and apologies for any inconvenience caused. All right, so yeah, you may refer to the official MUSA Instagram page for the exact link as well as code. In the meantime, we'll proceed back to the questions from office bearers.
Okay, so this one is for Jingwei. The manifesto mentions your team will be aiming to increase collaboration externally. If campus activities resume in next year, there will be a significant amount of your work related to liaising with event organizers for event coverage on campus. So how will you ensure all parties are satisfied in external collaboration and manage the work while taking care of the administrative work for event coverages, website, and Manga's own initiatives?
Thank you, Shannon, for the question. So to answer your question, we will consider to collab with some societies and clubs that are generally more responsive and very active with their projects. For example, we might collab with Ensemble, as Manga has also collab with them recently. And we will also consider clubs such as Photography Club to maybe collab on a snapshot challenge and Cinematic Club for movie recommendations and reviews. And to ensure that there is no conflict and to ensure all parties are satisfied, we will also work closely with with each of them, and we will have meetings, and we will also work closely with student life to ensure all the initiatives are run smoothly. Yeah, thank you.
Angie.
All right. I'll start with one question. So, being the head designer, this is specifically for Chaiting, by the way. So, being the head designer, you will have to take the risk of handling the majority of the design workload, as some of your subcommittees may not be available. So, designs take a lot of time to curate, and magazine files are heavy in size, they're complicated to manage before they are ready to be printed. So, these will definitely cost a lot of your time. So, may I know how do you plan to mitigate this? Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your question. I think how I would do it is that I'll make sure that I will know each and every subcom schedule first, and then I'll plan it all in a Google Sheet. And if they were to not be able to make it, I would recommend and advise them to tell me beforehand. But if there were to come a situation where it's really like uncalled for, where I actually had to take initiative for the design, I believe that I'll be able to do it because I have experiences with time constraints with especially design work, which I feel like I'm able to mold into that last minute design situation. And I will take that initiative because I believe that being a leader, being a head, it means taking charge when things go wrong. And yeah, ultimately the goal is to push the content out. So regardless of what happens, I will still emphasize and place importance in that. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your answer. Before the time ends, I guess I'll pass to Jared first.
So my question is directed towards she. So, so given the current situation, the possibility of a hybrid teaching style can be fairly high, which meaning that means that maybe some students can come back to campus and have activities, while some of them might be trapped overseas and have to have online class like right now. So, in the case of such a scenario, how do you plan on allocating workflow to the media department to ensure fair participation across all the subcommittees?
Thank you, Jeff, for the question. So firstly, I will see who are the subcoms who are abroad and the subcoms who are living here. So I will plan on like creating like projects which subcoms who are present here can do, and also like maybe introduce projects that the subcoms living abroad can participate in as well. Thank you.
And if in the case where there are, so maybe some of them really cannot do it, then how do you ensure like fair participation?
May I know what do you mean by cannot do it?
Like they might be still restricted by rules in their countries and etc. And because there are so many factors that you have to account for.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So what I plan on doing is, there are some projects which they can do from home, like maybe participate in projects like create a desktop setup or like a cook off or something, like something that they can do at home in case like they can't really go out due to the restrictions back home.
Okay, second question. So you guys mentioned that you might be increasing video work for social media. So how do you plan on recruiting subcoms to manage videos? Because video work is actually fairly time consuming and there are always less candidates that can actually work on videos. And in the case where you don't have enough video subcoms, what is your plan B for video projects?
Okay, so for the video projects, firstly, I plan on to like distribute it to the subcoms. And say, for instance, if they really can't do it, then I personally will take the initiative to complete it at the end. Thank you.
Okay, but in the case maybe you're not experienced with some certain fields of video work, then how are you going to address that? Let's say you are working with another department and they have certain expectations for quality, but because of maybe you don't have enough subcoms that have the ability to do that, what are you going to do about it?
If we really don't have subcoms who can do it, then I think it's the duty of the head, like for me to like personally like maybe learn and then like try to like satisfy the work and like deliver a good quality work.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's still like 8 minutes left. If other editors don't have any question, I'm going to ask the rest of the questions that I have for Chaiting. Is that okay? I hope that's okay. So I'll move on to the second question. All right, for Chaiting, looking at your previous designs, I noticed that they have very similar styles. While it is a great thing that it shows your authentic style of your design, sometimes it may not be exactly what the design should be in terms of the theme. So how do you ensure that your design will be cohesive to the predetermined theme that has been collectively agreed by your team?
Thank you for the question. I think as the head of design, I would design based on what the student wants. So basically, we will decide the design aesthetic of the semester, for instance, based on the student's voice and opinions on it. So we plan to do this by using the Instagram polls and give suggestions and let them to decide, okay, which style would they prefer. And then I would look through and study this design and make sure that the semesters like whole theme and aesthetic will be cohesive to what the student wants, because manga is ultimately for the student. So I will not put my own aesthetic into how I design, and I'll make sure that my subcoms understand it as well, that they will also understand the style that we're going for, so that we won't I guess like have some sort of bias in how we decide how the magazine will go, as well as the Instagram post. Thank you.
Okay, just to make sure that you're not letting the actual theme, as in like the magazine themes and then your theme projects, to be decided by the students, right? Because those are usually planned by all the head of editors. As for the theme that I was explaining previously, was more like, let's say there's a submission from the student and then it's about a certain topic. You have to make sure that the design has to be exactly what the writing is intended. So yeah, that's what I was supposed to like ask to you, but the answer was quite okay. The last question before I end my session would be, if one of your subcommittees' work does not meet the standard of what a proper design should be, or what well, let's say there's too many layers, so that it would be very scattered for you to actually organize the entire layers later on, because you know how it goes, because you've also designed a page in the magazine, right? So yeah, how will you approach them?
Thank you for the question. I will, because I believe in open communication, so I would definitely have a one-on-one chat with this specific subcom, and I will ask like, okay, like what's going on and everything, because I don't want to assume that So I will have that one-on-one chat with them, and then I will teach them if they need some help in a certain way, because I believe that you do not have to be the most skillful designer to be in manga. It's like, as long as you're teachable and as long as you want to learn, that's good as well. So I will also lead them in that way as well. But I do understand that time is also of the essence, where like there may not be enough time, that this may be due tomorrow and there's so many layers and everything. So I will help fix it, because content is still the most important. So I'll help fix it, and if that conversation had to be delayed to another time, I would do that. Thank you.
All right, that's great. Other heads, if you have any question, you can ask them.
Yep. So before we move on to that, just wanted to make another announcement. So to our audience, we have resolved the live chat issue. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the comments. Apologies for any inconvenience caused. So the office bearers will have a bit more time to ask the questions before we move forward with the questions from the audience. All right. So over to you, editors.
All right, thank you. So I do have two questions, one general and one is for Ashley. So I'll start with the general one. So I noticed that many of the ideas are based on collaborations, getting inputs from the audience as well as the students. So how would you as editors drive your own creative freedom, balance your own creative freedom with interacting with others? Because it's easy for them to just decide where you should go. Like I think you mentioned it just now, where they will decide the teams, if I'm not mistaken. So how would you balance it between where you want to drive manga versus how other people want the team to be?
If it's okay, I'll take that question from Christy. Thank you. First of all, other than the thematic months, of course, we have writers' corners that we recently decided to produce on manga. So when it comes to feeling a creative side, I believe that yes, we should follow the voice of the students for maybe like thematic months, but we can also create writers' corners or corners for the media department in order to showcase our creativity and express our opinions regarding certain topics. Thank you.
I see. All right. So as the head writer, you have the responsibility to create the new writers' corners. So I would like to listen to some of your ideas for let's say you do get elected. So what are some of your ideas for the new writers' corners that we have not done before? Because you mentioned LGBT, Pride Month and all that. So we've done that. What is something new that you can bring to Manga 2022? Sorry?
The candidates are discussing their answers.
Oh.
Yep. Right, so while the candidates are discussing, just a reminder, if the audience has any questions, feel free to drop in the chat, or if any questions come up after debates has happened, then you can also drop it down on the manifestos on the official Instagram page. All right, so candidates, when you're ready, over to you.
Hi. Some of the examples of topics that I would probably pursue are stuff like toxic masculinity, body positivity, and stuff like that. Of course, there are a lot of other topics that I would like to pursue, but these are two that just came off the top of my head. Thank you.
So those are topics, right? So do you have any maybe other type of interactive, not interactive, but other type of corners that are just, not to say topics, but what kind of corners would you do? Like maybe submissions, maybe art team, things like that?
We were thinking of probably doing some informative corners in the case that Monash transitions to a hybrid semester. We would try to give them like tips and tricks to survive a physical campus or stuff like that. Thank you.
All right. To the other editors?
I don't have any question from me. Is there anyone who want to ask?
So from office bears, are there any other further questions as of now?
As of now, probably not. Maybe we can give it to the audience.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. So right now we have two questions from the floor. So for our audience watching right now, like mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in the comments. So the first question is from Meisha. So if for some reason we cannot go back to campus, how will the upcoming editors enhance the manga to reach Monashians?
Okay, so I would like to answer this question if that's okay. So to capitalize on Instagram's algorithm, we will focus more on Reels because Reels can reach more people and this might boost Monga's follower count, which then will lead to an increase in engagement rate. And we will also take the chance to introduce some fashion lookbooks, which can be inviting to students who like to dress up. For instance, we can initiate challenges like your Monday to Friday outfits or dressing up as your favorite movie character. And other than lookbooks, we will also hop on the trending sounds on Reels and initiate Monashians to create their own Reels using the trending sounds. However, prior to all this, like we will create polls on Instagram to see if students are really interested in these initiatives because, like we mentioned, we value the students' opinion and as Monga has always been from the students and for the students. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your answer. So from other editor candidates, do you have anything to add in before we proceed to the next question? Nope. All right, then we'll move on. For the next question, this was submitted through Slido, hence there's no student name included. So I'm sure you have a lot of ideas if we were to return on campus. So kind of building upon one of the previous questions by the office bearers, what ideas or initiatives would you guys prioritize to take place for Manga 2022? So note that this question is more referring to what would be the key initiatives that you would like to prioritize. Yep. So as the candidates discuss, for the audience, we still have some time for the Q&A. So please feel free to drop in any questions that you may have. All right, candidates, are you ready to provide your answer to this question?
So I would like to answer this question if that's okay. So we will ensure that if campus reopens, we will be paying special attention to Monash-centric events such as Monash Ball and Monash Cup. And we will also try our best to prepare our subcoms for the possibility of an offline learning environment. And we will also, like we mentioned, we will also resume traditional initiatives like Humans of Monash and Monch. And besides that, we will also focus on Reels, like I mentioned. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your answer. So we do have questions coming in. So the next one is from Mikey. From pre-pandemic during 2019, Monga has always assisted in covering the media for other department or clubs events. What do you think of Monga covering the media of online activities as well? For example, the MUSA Buddies program as well as orientation activities. So as the candidates discuss, once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it for the candidates. Or if nothing comes to mind, you may also choose to drop it into the comment section of the KYC profiles on the official MUSA Instagram page.
Thank you so much for your question, Mikey. So yes, we are aware that during during pre-pandemic, like Monga used to cover all the events like through media, but then like considering like how the situation is right now, it is quite hard for the media department to like edit each and every video for a particular club or an event. So that's why Monga, if it's during online, we plan on focusing more by covering events through written articles. But because like we have to ensure that our subcoms are free as well to edit all those videos. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your answer. Moving on, we have another question from Garan. In view of the high possibility that campus will be reopened next year, fingers crossed, Monga will cover every event subject to request. So how will Monga allocate the slot for each event? And when there, especially when there are multiple events happening at the same time across the campus. Okay, so yes, do feel free to keep the questions coming. We still have time to accommodate to them.
Okay, I'll answer that question if you don't mind. First of all, we will have to look into the availability of our subcommittees and ensure that they have enough time to execute, record, take photos, and write up all of these events. In the case where there's an overwhelming number of events, in the Constitution, Monga does have the right to refuse the event coverage if we feel that it is too straining towards our subcommittee as well as ourselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you for our answer. So moving on to the next question, we have a question from Lion. What other new and unique initiatives do you have in line that are not related to hybrid or offline campus experiences? So in short, any new and unique initiatives in regards to the online situation?
Okay, I would like to answer that question if that's okay. So, like we stated before, we will be focusing on views. So we will introduce fashion lookbooks. I don't know if you find that interesting, but we will initiate some challenges like your Monday to Friday outfits and dressing up as your favorite movie character or your favorite Netflix show character. And other than lookbooks, we will also hop on the trending sounds on Reels. Yeah, basically that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. So our not last question, second to last question. Hello, candidates. Just curious if there's any initiatives catering for those who do not like to be in the limelight, as I believe students would also like to be included, but in different ways.
Oh, thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Oops, so sorry. Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah, we do hear you and we do understand that there are some people who might not be comfortable in front of the camera. That's why we do introduce like initiatives like the Spotify playlist and the Pinterest boards, or even like the writing TMIC months where you don't really have to show your face, and it is only like we'll only know that it's you who posted it and stuff like that, so you don't have to be in the video. Thank you for your question.
All right. So following that, there's another question from Eunice as well. So how we ensure the autonomy of Monga's operation while being involved in committees bound to the Constitution? So for example, in the Media Affairs Committee.
Okay, I'll take the question if that's okay with everyone. So as stated in the constitution, it's pretty brief about the MEC or the Media Administrative Committee. It usually provides broad guidelines on the publishing and distribution of media material. Therefore, I believe that when it comes to creative aspects as well as transparency, when it comes to the dissemination of information from manga, I don't believe that it will be much of an issue, as we will always be held accountable by the MAC itself as well as the student body. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So for the audience, if you still have any questions, we still have a bit of time to cover them. Moving on to the last question so far from Mikey. Following up Shi's answer, wouldn't it be easier to record and edit if it was online compared to if it were on campus? Or do you mean it's harder to edit good content for online events?
Oh, thank you for the question again, Mikey. I mean, if you have edited a video online, I think you would know. So basically, like the fact that we have to go through a 3 hour or 2 hour long like a video, a Zoom meeting, and then like edit it, it's like really hard compared to if it was offline, where you just like maybe record like the important events and stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely harder online, like to make a content out of like Zoom meetings. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, so hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to drop a follow-up question in the comment section. So as of now, there's no questions incoming, but we will give it a few more minutes. In the meantime, from the office bearers, do you have any follow-up questions or any new questions that has come up based on the questions that has been asked so far?
I do have one question pertaining to the manifesto.
All right, go
Sorry,
ahead.
is there an echo? All right. So you mentioned breathing new life into manga post-pandemic. So paying special attention to to Monash-centric events such as Monash Ball and Monash Cup to encourage campus-wide unity. Can you please explain what that means? Because paying special attention, what does that mean? I did videos, you write articles about it, you interview the team captains, you do highlights. So what is special attention?
Right, so before the candidates answer, just a final call for any questions from the audience. Okay, so once candidates are ready, go ahead.
Thank you for your question, Christy. When we mentioned that we would like to pay more attention to Monash-centric events like Monash Ball and Monash Cup, it's mostly in terms of publicizing and paying special extra attention to it, as in like the content we generate and ensuring that it's publicized a little bit more compared to some of our other thematic months. Because ever since March 2020 intake, myself included, we've never really had a taste of campus life. So we would like to highlight these a bit more in order to encourage more people to be like, oh, okay, so this is what Monash campus life is like. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your answers. So as of now, there are no other questions from the audience. So for the audience, if any other questions comes up, you can feel free to drop it on their manifesto. And for office bearers, if you have any questions, we have time for one more. So any other questions?
I can follow up from the previous one.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. So you said publicize it a little bit more. So how would that be done? Obviously, you can share on Instagram. You can post it on your stories. What else can be done since you said more attention than your other events such as thematic month?
All right, candidates, time is running out, so please do provide an answer before we wrap up the space. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to answer that question if that's okay. So most importantly, we will focus on Instagram stories. We will publicize these events through Instagram's features, but also like we will consider to use, if we get to go back to campus, we might utilize flyers, and also we might tap into student emails. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for your answer, candidates. And yep, that brings us to almost the end of today's debate. Thank you so much, candidates, for all the answers given, and to our office bearers as well as audience for all the challenging questions. So moving forward, we'll be wrapping up today's session with a closing statement. So candidates, you have 2.5 minutes amongst all of you. All the best.
First of all, we'd like to thank everyone for all the questions that we received. Before we wrap up this debate, we would like to reiterate our 4-point manifesto. MUNGA stands on transparency, ensuring autonomy and unbiased opinions when delivering content from MUSA and its respective departments. Secondly, through the utilization of Instagram's newest features such as Reels and more immersive audio-video content, we plan to increase online engagement. Furthermore, in order to create a more inclusive environment, we plan to increase collaboration internally and externally by putting forward more interdepartmental projects as well as collaborations with clubs outside MUSA. Finally, in the event that we do transition back to an offline or hybrid semester, we plan on breathing new life into Monga's post-pandemic by paying attention to Monash-centric events to encourage campus-wide unity, especially for students who are March 2020 intake onwards. In conclusion, based on our manifesto, we believe that we'll bring Monga to a greater heights and be a voice for the student population. And we promise to commit to the goals that we've set. Thank you once again to our current office bearers, Christy, Shannon, Jed, Angie, the election committee, as well as our audience for listening and for your questions.
All right, thank you, candidates. And to all our audience, thank you so much for tuning in today. Before you leave, we do have one final session of the day, which is taking place at 9:15 Malaysia time for the treasurers. So see you all there and take care, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you.